So welcome to the first of the Lord's Discordant podcast, and I think this is ultimately just us making noise for probably half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and possibly spreading out to various podcast stations the absolute babble of nonsense that we talk about on our various group chats. In terms of introductions, I am my mini Rez, aka Shane. I've been a Blood Angels collector for many a year, many long years. I've probably been into Games Workshop and Warhammer 40,000 for about 20 odd years. To pass you over to the next one, who wants to introduce themselves next?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Simon, also known as Mr. Snibs. I've been playing since about 5th edition, I'd say. Mainly playing sort of competitive circuits these days. Big fan of the sort of hobby inside of things, but yeah. No, just here to talk some nonsense with my buds. Yeah.
I guess that leaves me then. So I'm Ross from Ragnar Studios, commissioned painter, and I've been painting for about 6-7 years now, something like that. Done a couple of tournaments, been to a couple of places. Love my Space Wolves.
You do love your Space Wolves, that's true, actually.
I love my Space Wolves.
Yeah.
All the Space Wolves. So we kind of chatted a bit about what we want to do and how we want this to work and sort of how the format's going to be. And I think with the range of sort of experience that we've got, we were hoping to have a James join us tonight. Unfortunately, he's not very well. It's been a bit short notice to get one of the many Chris's on as well. So it's kind of just going to be the three of us chatting a little bit, really. But in terms of like a theme for this week, I kind of wanted to kind of throw down hard, which is why when I spoke to you two sort of previously, the allusion that I've alluded to the words hot takes. So I'm just thinking of the controversial thing, or the bit that potentially no one wants to talk about, or we want to talk about it, but we kind of don't want to be disowned from the gaming groups that we're part of. I'm happy to go first. I'm happy if you guys have got something in particular. And it doesn't have to be, we kind of talked about what we want to do with this podcast in terms of like lore, in terms of gaming, in terms of painting, that kind of stuff. Anything within the hobby. Absolutely anything. I think any discussion of female models, female Space Marines is an auto ban. I think whoever brings up the fact that females shouldn't, or suggests that female Space Marines shouldn't be in the hobby, I think we should just physically murder in real life.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree.
just going to leave, but that's okay.
That's just, and any other hot take is absolutely fine. So, would anyone like to go first?
I've got a couple.
No, you go. Oh, there we are.
I've got two, really. I've got two. One of them.
Two. Would you want to do one?
One of them is going to be very controversial with the peer review, actually, to be honest. I think that when they do the 11th edition launch box, whilst I do agree that Orcs is a good choice, I want them to do anything other than Space Marines as the other half of the box. You look at how bloated the Codex is for Space Marines at the moment. Does it need more models to be added to that absolute pile of 240-odd data sheets when you could be having that go towards, armies that have, like, not to be biased to my own sort of wants, 17, like the Emperor's Children Codex, and 4 of those are Demons data sheets that you can only bring in one detachment. So, I do think there is space for them to expand other ranges, and I do feel like it does create something of a feel-bad moment for people who don't play Space Marines when they're like, my army hasn't had any updates for years. I mean, you look at Ben with Drew and stuff like that, and you go, half that model range disappeared with the Codex because they haven't updated the models yet. And I'm like, well, maybe just throw a bit of love their way,
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't dislike it.
I hate it.
Ross, why do you hate it? There you go.
No, I don't hate it. It does make perfect sense. But the issue is the GW side of things. You've got to think about that. One, it's the most common army that people will start to play. Especially the start of an edition, you want the easy one. So say you did do Drukhari versus Orcs, and you've just started, you want to start on 11th edition, and you go, oh yeah, cool, I'm going to look at this new box set. and then you look at the models and you go, I can't paint that.
I suppose there is
So
that.
there's an issue there. And also, the other thing, though, as well, when you think about it, is what is the actual percentage of people who play Warhammer that have, if not only, but have at least one Space Marine army? So if we just pick us three right now, do all three of us have a Space Marine army?
Well, more than one, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Vaguely
And same with Taylor.
starting. But yeah, I mean that's another option for it, though, isn't there? Instead of just going like, oh yeah, here's your Ultramarine sort of basic standards. Go but Divergent. There are Divergent chapters that need love. There are Divergent chapters that need rules. Even it's. I think there's scope for that as well.
I do completely agree. It's if it was up to me, I would watch Drukhari versus Grey Knights come out, and watch them both get a full army refresh. And especially after the Custodes one, I can't wait for the Grey Knights one.
Ooh, that's quite dirty, actually.
But it's just gonna be so much easier when you do that, because selling those boxes can be so easy with half of them being Space Marine. Like when 10th edition dropped, me and you bought 2 boxes together, didn't we?
We did, yeah, because I played Tyranids as my primary.
Yeah, so that was pretty easy. Look, the thing is every Space Marine model in the 10th edition box set, I've sold. I never used them.
I think I've got some of yours, actually. I think I bought some of them off you.
Yeah, I gave you the Biologians for free. I was just these things are useless. And then the next
Make
thing
sure
you know,
get how magnanimous you are on the recorded podcast as well, by the way. Don't let anyone have any doubt that you're not giving stuff out for free.
oh man, every time I give a model away, the following update it goes, oh yeah, these models are must-haves. And I'm like, oh great, I just got rid of 3 combi lieutenants.
It's true. I mean, it could be worse. You could have got rid of a load of Carnifexes.
Oh, let's not talk about Carnifexes, shall we? I sold 4 Carnifexes, and then GW decided to decrease their points value by 50 for 2. And I was like, oh, Carnifexes are now viable in 10th, and now I don't have any to use.
Wasn't it like a matter of weeks as well? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
really close?
I sold them about 6 weeks before the day of slate.
Oh man, I spent most of 9th edition fighting those Carnifexes.
Yeah, and I really wish I still had them to hand, but there we are.
So just to kind of jump on what you said about the starter box and that kind of, it's not going to be a secret, but that glimpse behind the curtain in terms of GW. You guys are fully aware, but obviously for the purposes of the podcast, a long time ago, very, very long time ago, I worked in the GW retail stores. I can date it because I started when the original Grey Knights Codex was released.
Oof.
That was the weekend I joined.
1852.
That'll do, something like that. Close enough. So, I used to like you. But the biggest thing about the box sets and the biggest thing about GW is recruitment. Retention is so-so. People join, people come back, people do, people don't, whatever. And you saw that during COVID as well, the amount of people that came back into the hobby that had done it years ago. COVID is an extreme example, but people fall in and out of love with it, and different things happen, blah blah blah. But the whole point of it is recruitment. And the whole point of that then is what they call those core box sales, so those armies in a box. And the point is less that you get 2 armies, the point is that you can play at home. So you can have a friend play, or a member of the family play, or a sibling play, and then they get into it, but then they want their own models, so then they go and buy a box set. So the whole point of the core box set has always been, buy this so you can play it at home and get other people interested in the little bits of plastic. Now, and we used to be sort of targeted on that. Again, it's a retail setting, but it was never done to the same extent with like a combat patrol or a battalion box set or whatever they're called now, the army boxes, and the main rule book. It wasn't the same because the delivery was different. So I've always kind of thought, and I've always would have liked to have seen like a smaller. Almost like not quite kill team, not quite that small, but that's almost smaller than a combat patrol box, which is an add-on to the core box. So you say, right, tell you what, actually, I would like to do this, or I'd like to get back into the hobby. I played Space Marines years ago. I'd actually really like to try out Tyranids, and I'd really like to see them versus Imperial Guard. I want to do the whole Starship Troopers thing, and you can get that as like a starter box, and just having that a bit more modular.
Yeah, that would be a good way to do it, to be fair.
Whether GW would ever do that or not, I doubt it. I really don't think that's on the cards. But I think that would be really interesting to see. But also the other pull to that core box, and the bit that kind of you mentioned before as well, is that do we need more models? Do we need more data sheets? But if they don't bring out new models in the new starter box, I don't think they're going to shift as many as probably they would like to.
Well, this is the other thing, is obviously when you get your new edition box sets, most of those models are going to be refreshes of models we already have, which at the moment Orcs and Space Marines still have quite a lot of models that need to be refreshed.
Good point. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, is this the opportunity now to get it all updated?
Well, I don't know if this is a different talking point, but when 11th edition drops, how many models will also go? Are we going to see rhinos in Space Marines, sort of like Adeptus Custodes after 11th? Are we going to see any resin models whatsoever across all armies?
I mean, I think the Drukhari Codex speaks a lot to that, because I mean, you look at the kits they lost. They lost the grotesques. They lost the Tantalus, which I thought was a weird one because it wasn't like that was getting spammed at competitive.
Was that the big ship?
Yeah, they got rid of it, didn't they?
Oh man, that looked amazing.
Yeah, they moved it to Legends just before the Drukhari Codex came out.
I hate that.
Yeah, because that model was glorious.
And this kind of leads into what I wonder what the plans are for 11th. You know, I mean, Yarrick's on his way back. He's not going to be in the starter box. We've got the 500 world stuff that's going on. There's so much going on at the moment, and the whole point is that the new box sets and the new editions move on the story setting. But this almost, I don't know, I can't tell with Yarrick, and I wonder how much this is like a blast to the past. Did you guys ever, I don't know if, again, I mean, we're talking like, I think it was in the 3rd edition, but they had the second battle for Armageddon. It was a global GW campaign.
I know about it.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
So the bit that sticks for me is essentially it dictated what happened to Brother Captain Tycho of the Blood Angels. And this was like, geez, early 2000s? Probably, maybe, I want to say early 2000s, that seems right time-wise. But you participate in the games, a bit similar to how they did the code thing in Leviathan. But before most people had internet. And it was a case of, you know, you played in the stores, and whatever happened in the stores was then happened in real life, and that's what happened is, I think it was the War for Armageddon was one, but Brother Captain Tycho was one of the casualties, and he died. It took another 20 years, I think, for him to actually take him out of the codex. It's the most recent one where he doesn't exist as a model anymore.
Just about to ask you that.
It still hurts.
He had 2 models, didn't he?
Yeah.
As well.
Well, yeah, kind of. He only ever had the one, but he had 2 profiles. He had the normal one, and then he had the Death Company Tycho.
Yeah, that's the one.
So he kind of had that weird profile thing, but the model was the same one. I've still got my original metal one, and I love him. So you know, I wonder then if this is kind of the point of that, and I like it to an extent because it's using the technology that we've got now to do that and to kind of make it all encompassing. I know Tabletop Tactics have tried to do something similar with their kind of campaign leaderboard type stuff. So yeah, I'm curious as to how, with the drop of 11th edition, and how that box set's going to look, and if there's going to be the means to kind of like to have a global participation challenge or event sort of thing.
Yeah, because I mean, they did it with an actual sort of point to it when they dropped the 10th edition box, because the army that won overall, which was Tyranids, my boys, actually got the first Codex drop. So it was basically either going to be them or Space Marines. But then there was the big release wave for Tyranids, which was massive, because obviously you had like the new Termagants and stuff in the 10th edition box, but then they gave us new Hormagaunts. You had the Norn Emissary, all the new Lictors. They had, you know, the release of the new Biovore models as well. So it was like a massive release wave for Tyranids that was released ahead of time because of the fact that there was that global initiative, as you say, which I think really got people engaged at the start of 10th, especially like, Tyranid players, not sort of trying to be biased or anything, but I mean, the Termagant models, I think, were from 2005. And I think, obviously, when they updated all the, like, sort of battle line stuff, it got so many more people playing Tyranids at the time that I think that it was something that benefited GW, ultimately. So I think it would be strange for them not to do that again, where that had such an impact on, their sales revenues towards an army that was otherwise not being played as much.
Yeah, I think it put the emphasis back on a non-Space Marine army, which is kind of what started the whole point of this kind of conversation. And yeah, Tyranids definitely needed some love. So to do it in such a way, I actually forgot that was kind of the result of that as well. It was whichever kind of army won, as it were. And it might not have been. And I'm curious as to how much there was kind of, if there was any vote sort of changing within this. I wonder how many games were played that weren't Tyranids versus Space Marines, but people still voted not for Space Marines. A bit like how when England play in any game, it's Wales and Ireland and Scotland. It doesn't matter who they're playing; they will bet on whoever it is that's versus England. I wonder if it's the same kind of thing. Yeah, everyone who doesn't play a generic or a Loyalist Space Marine army just went, I don't care. I've played a game. I'm voting for Tyranids.
Well, you had to have the 10th edition box.
Yeah, you had
and it only came with one card, and you had to play one of those armies, and the only way you'd have that card to vote is if you bought the 10th edition box set.
Yeah, but see, I had the box set, and I didn't play one of those armies for ages. I could have easily just put the code in and said Tyranids or Space Marines and things like that. But yeah, no, and again, it's a fair point, and it'd be nice to see that in a slightly more expanded setting.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting take. It'd be interesting to see it will be interesting to see what happens with the 11th edition. I think everyone's getting confirmed that it's on its way out, aren't they?
Yeah.
Adepticon is 8 days away from this recording.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that's going to, because if the predictions are correct, you're talking 11th in June, which is, 11th, the proper, like, sort of release boxes and stuff was June, wasn't it? Like, when they did 10th. I think historically it's been in the summer as well. So, I mean, if that release wave is, if they're sticking up to their old habits, which GW tend to, because they really do love a bit of, conformity to their own model, that it is likely that with Adepticon you might actually see, like, the announcement of what's going to be in that box, or, like, at least what the armies are going to be.
Yeah. Forgetting that Adepticon's in the way. It was all when I was there in all the editions that we went through, it was always the big sort of summer release. So August down through into sort of September and on the way that way, and then it gives you the build-up time to catch people for Christmas as well. So I think the actual release is a few months off, but yeah, I think you're right. I think we're definitely going to see something big at Adepticon this year.
Yeah.
Like Lewin Ross.
We've already got the tank.
We need another one.
Well, on the topic of your favourite Primarch, I'm happy that that's an interesting one. So thank you, Ross. What's your first of many, I imagine? But what's your hot take you want to bring to the table now?
My hot take. I've got two, I think, but one's obviously a lot hotter.
Ooh.
To you, probably.
This better not be No Blood Angels.
It is getting rid of certain things that came in 10th edition, and the main one I'm probably saying about fights first. Getting rid of fights first.
I think I'm largely going to be part of the decriers of this notion, because I, as someone who plays pretty much exclusively melee armies, I do think it helps to bring balance to that melee sort of shift, especially with like stuff like UKTC terrain and stuff like that, where if you don't have that, it is literally just dependent on who gets to charge first. So then you have more of an emphasis on that second turn benefit as well, which is already a massive problem in 10th edition. Is obviously if you go second, you have an advantage. If someone has to move up the board first, then you're basically saying whoever goes second, if you're playing a melee mirror matchup, then the person who goes second has even more of an advantage, other than just the points implications of going second.
Okay, that's fine. The defensive capabilities of being able to have some sort of control in the other person's melee phase, like fight phase and stuff, that is great. And using it on the table, it's a great rule. The bit I don't like is most models that have fights first are amazing in melee, and they're usually named characters. If not, they're known duelist characters or something. So, your Empress Children, Lucius the Eternal, does he have fights first?
He does, but not if he's attached to a unit. Which I think was a nice touch, because he can attach to Flawless Blades. Now, if he brought that benefit with Flawless Blades would be absolutely broken. So I'm glad that they made it. He has fights first if he is on his own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if he's on his own then, he gets fights first.
He does.
Okay, Shane. Mephiston, does he have fights first?
He does.
And does he doesn't go to another unit, does he? He's on his own.
He can't attach to another unit.
Wonderful.
But I would say, and it might just be my rolling, because it seems to take Mephiston 4 actual games to power up, and then he has an amazing game. But I think, because how many points is Lucius?
150.
So I think Mephiston's marginally more expensive. I think he's 185. Might be about the same, I'll have to double check. I think Lucius can solo Mephiston without blinking, unless he really spikes on her pain saves.
Lucius does have some great abilities that do help him when it comes into going into that sort of dueling category, especially with other characters, in that he gets full reroll to hit and wound into character units.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
So even with his even at toughness 5, 2 up armor save, 5 up inbun, 4 up feel no pain, and 6 wounds, I still think Lucius is going to drop him. Now, Mephiston's got fights first, so depending on how that interaction goes, but he's got 6 attacks, hitting on 2s at strength 9, AP minus 2 D3 damage.
Okay, but what I'm getting at, it's not their data sheets.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you've got 2 named big lore characters. Both have got fights first. They're both on their own. And you go, wouldn't it be really cool if Lucius and Mephiston got into a proper fight? And then you sit there and you go, hold on. If I charge him, he'll fight first. And if he charges me, I'll fight first. So you both just circle each other and you don't do anything about it. And then you run off and go, Lucius goes charge off an intercessor. Or Mephiston charges a chaos spawn. And you're sat there going, well, that's not right. These guys should be like dueling it out. And I'm not all the way up there with the Horus Heresy rules, but I'm pretty sure there are rules in Horus Heresy where you can get named characters and captains fighting on a one-on-one duel.
Yes.
But it doesn't work.
Yeah,
with fights first.
They've got the challenge mechanic. Now, I have thoughts on this because I think it's absolutely excellent because I've dallied with 30k a bit, and I had Tinza, who was one of the character series models from GW. Now, he has a thing when they're doing a duel, because the way that it works is you basically roll on initiative to see who fights. And then you have, like, unique rules and stuff, so you choose something called a gambit, which is something that your character will try to do to get the upper hand. So even if one character is, significantly better than the other, there are things you can do to even that playing field and sort of have that epic duel, like you say. Like, he had something which was called striking high or striking low, and you had to basically choose which he was going to do. And if he did that, then he would get to fight first. But if he's striking low, you have to roll a 1 to a 3. If he's striking high, you have to roll a 4 to a 6. So if you fuck your roll, then it ultimately goes against you. So, yeah, there's quite a lot of cool mechanics in Horus Heresy, especially when it comes to, like you say, having those big thematic moments. I think a lot of the problem is that 40k is very much centered around, when they talk about balance and when they write rules for it, it's very much focused around the sort of competitive elements of it, rather than that narrative theming, which is what 30k is really based around. It's less of a competitive game, more of a narrative game. And I think that gave them that
That is
freedom.
a good point. Yeah, yeah, no, that is a good point. Horus Heresy is, or 30k is a lot more narrative. It's basically it's a sci-fi historical game, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
reenactment game.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I get it. I do get it. It is more of a competitive scene, and competitive scene isn't as bad as it sounds to people that don't actually dip their toe into that sort of thing. But I don't know. Again, I like it, but with also, so say with Shane with the Blood Angels, who has a lot of fights first. So it always. So, okay, you got 4.
Because
four
we
units.
discussed this, and this is one of the things that we had a chat about, and we've had many a chat about, is we've still got the baseline Judicia. Okay, we've got Mephiston, he can't attach to a unit. You've got the Sanguinaut, who I know some people like, and I love him as a character, but I think he's an absolute bag of poo.
I hate him.
We've got an attachment for a once per game fights first.
Okay. 3.5.
Yeah.
But again, the thing I'm getting at is, say I run Space Wolves because I'm cool, and I go, here comes a Wolfguard battle leader and 6 head takers, and I'm running up the board and I see a Judicia and 6 Blade Guard. The first thing that crosses my mind is, this is gonna look awesome. But then to actually play the game, I need them to run off somewhere else. And then I just need to start shooting your Blade Guard. So your Blade Guard don't even get into melee. Because I'm there aiming tanks at them. And I get it, but it just, to me, it kind of ruins the game, because the melee units you want to get into melee with each other, you never do, and you run off in the opposite direction and start shooting them from ranged. But I think that what I was thinking of is, if you had something like, instead of fights first, you had like duelist keyword. And duelist keyword is basically, you could either have your characters, if there's characters, it probably wouldn't work that way. You probably have to do units. But they'd probably, instead of doing like fights on death kind of thing, they would both fight at the same time.
yeah.
So it would be like these 2 units charging into each other and just ripping each other to shreds. And then like you could end up like, there's what, 14 models there? And you could end that with like 1. But
I like the kind of thing for, and you mentioned like, say like Lucius and Mephiston kind of circling each other, and I mean that was like a really evocative image as well. You know, these 2 master swordsmen. You know, Mephiston would probably be quite stalwart and still with his, you know, blade raised and ready, whereas Lucius is probably like pacing round, twirling his sword around, kind of showing off the whip and everything, as they kind of both measure each other up. But yeah, to then have that not happen and they just run off and murder other people instead, I can, yeah, it's quite anticlimactic.
yeah, I think the Lion's got fights first.
He does. And the problem with the Lion having fights first, to my mind, is that Fulgrim has fights first if you give him fights first. Now, the issue I have with the Lion having fights first is the Lion also has, his sweep profile is absolutely insane, because it's like 16 attacks. He also has a 3-up invulnerable save, which means that even if he charges into Fulgrim, the chances of Fulgrim actually taking him down before he then gets to obliterate him is basically negligible. But obviously, if you then charge the Lion, especially if you charge him with something like, for example, Blade Guard, he's going to take the unit out because he has fights first, because he's basically impossible to kill as well. I think you have to put so much into him to bring him down. I mean, I really like the Lion as the model. I don't think he's particularly broken, to be honest. There are ways to deal with him. But as you say, that does then normally consist of you either chucking a tank into him or firing, in my case, 2 squads of Noise Marines at him at point-blank range, which, again, doesn't exactly have that thematic element to it of, trying to take the Lion down in close combat.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Well, I can understand it is a competitive rule, but I think that obviously playing this game, you do have like a thematic sort of look to it as well. And that kind of ruins it for me. But that's like I said, that's just my take anyway.
There was an interesting bit that you mentioned there, Simon, which actually kind of gave me a little bit of an idea, and it kind of leads into what you're saying, Ross, about the duelist thing. I wonder if potentially Fight First could be a melee attack profile. So you've got your strike, you've got your sweep, but you also have a Fights First one, where you have the potential to do that damage or to mitigate some of the incoming, but you're not full power. You're on the receiving end of a charge. You know, it needs to be, and it might be something like, I don't know, and again, it's going to depend how they decide to do keywords, but yeah, okay, you're going to get a couple of attacks in, you might manage to drop one person, but potentially actually, whether it's set as a keyword or whether it's set as an attack, it might be like -1 damage, like you've braced for impact, you've got that kind of, that superhuman speed, or you've got that experience in those kind of combats where you brace for the impact, and as the enemy comes in, okay, you're not fighting first, but actually there is still a penalty for charging that unit, or charging a unit that's prepared.
Yeah, I mean, these are the sort of the nitty gritty questions, aren't they? That I think that people like. 'Cause I can understand the thing with Fights First, as like Ross, and I believe you as well, Shane, will absolutely appreciate. It's because you play melee armies like I do. Sometimes like it's like armies like Death Guard, where they can basically attach foul Blightspawn to like multiple units of Plague Marines. It basically means that my entire front line can't charge, and I'm then just waiting for them to either charge me and still get to Fights First, or I'm trying to charge them, which means that if I play into Death Guard, I pretty much just lose.
Yeah, I mean, I just like playing Death Guard anyway, and that's not a hot take. That is just fact for me. I dislike Death Guard, but I also think it depends on how you use them, and possibly I use them wrong. I quite like my shield wall of Judicia and Blade Guards kind of standing mid-board, essentially saying, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough, because they've got that Fights First. And I've found, I've been running with Sanguinary Priests, I've found them less effective. That Fight First threat isn't as prevalent. So maybe it is, and I am biased because I do have some greater options to it. Not sure on that one, but yeah, interesting.
Well, there's one quick last hot take on that subject just before we move to the next subject. How come the Judicia has an hourglass which can disrupt the fabric of time, which gives him Fights First, and we never see that technology anywhere else in the Imperium?
You kind of do. I was speaking to James about this the other day. The reason you don't hear much about it is because it's part of the Ordo Chronos, who are like the most secretive elements of the Inquisition. So the Judiciars are kind of supposed to be, subservient to the Ordo Chronos, who are this very secretive part of the sort of the Inquisition. So you've got, the Ordo Xenos, the Ordo Malleus, you've got the Ordo Hereticus, then you've also got the Ordo Chronos, who are just basically unheard of because they're very secretive. But it's supposed to be that sort of temporal technology that they use, which is basically a bit sus. But it's there is a inquisitorial order that is dedicated to stuff around time manipulation.
Wasn't the Ordo Chronos because they couldn't tell what time it was and what the date actually was, and it had a whole thing just for making it?
Yeah, so they did look into that, but there was I remember there being a short story about this. I can't remember what it was in relation to. It was, what's it called? The Pharisee Paradox, that's what it was called. It was a short story where basically this man who is a member of the Ordo Chronos goes onto this ship, and because he's like, detects it's got something weird going on it. And he goes on there, it's just full of corpses. And he starts to realise, as he goes into the ship further and further, that all of the corpses around him are actually him, because he's stuck in a time loop.
Ooh.
Did Doctor Who turn up?
Yeah,
this is very Doctor Who, isn't it? This is timey-wimey. I mean, the going in time thing is Harry Potter. It's the time turner.
Yes.
And it's a bit like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that that's how the Fights First works. If they said it's a miniature stasis field generator,
fine.
It slows everyone else down. Cool. Okay, fine. We used to have stasis grenades. We had that kind of tech. And the whole point is he's a chaplain in training. To help him out, he needs to slow other people down so he knows how to fight.
And instead, he gets into a police box, goes back in time, and fights him.
I just find it weird that you've got this
Dark's got no chance.
you've got this leader of men, this man who is literally at the head of these veterans, the actual Blade Guard veterans, and it's like, oh yeah, what's he got? What's his war gear? He's got an executioner's sword, and he's also carrying around a hourglass. Right? It's just such an absurd notion that this man's just wandering around with a fucking timepiece on him.
I don't know where I've pulled this from. I don't know if I've just made it up because he's got the thing. But I was under the impression Odysseus had a vow of silence. Is that a thing, or am I making that up?
I'm not sure.
I could not tell you.
I don't. There's something about it. I don't know if, like I say, he's got like his Red Dead Redemption handkerchief over his mouth on the model.
They are, yes. They are. They're sworn to silence after accepting their role.
Yeah, there we go. See?
Yeah, they don't preach aloud, and they're not allowed to do so until they become a fully inducted Primaris chaplain.
Although, on the topic of fully inducted chaplain, this goes back to keywords, and this one can clear right off because it's getting right on my suite, is they don't have the chaplain keyword for the impact that has on Blood Angels and the Black Rage. And it really annoys me.
He's not a chaplain, though.
He's not a chaplain. He's learning to be a chaplain. He's a baby chaplain. Should have the chaplain keyword.
Well, no, because that would be like having your scouts with intercessor keywords and stuff like that. They're in training. They're like neophytes. I get it. I get it, but
Post-grad, undergrad, student. But he doesn't get a student discount. He's still an expensive model.
Also, so here's the other thing as well, Shane. If he's got a vow of silence as well, how exactly is he calming down those with the Black Rage? He won't be speaking to them, will he?
Let's go back in time and run away.
Go back in time to when they were calm.
Oh yeah, he's got all time, hasn't he?
Yeah. Kick back, relax, chill, do stuff. Okay, but yeah. Fights First is one, and it will be interesting. I think Fight First has to be addressed, if for no other reason. And shout out to Chris, one of the committee members of LXT that we're a gaming club involved, for his persistence in answering the question of how does Fights First work. Because bless him, that's all the man ever seems to get. But yeah, I think something has to be done with it. I think there's an element to balance that with fights, with Fight on Death and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do think there is something needs to be done, or there needs to be a change to how that flows.
Well, I'm glad I mentioned that one instead of my obsession of hating on Twin Linked. But what was your subject?
So mine, it's going to be interesting. I think it's interesting anyway. It might not be. And this comes from a place of complete and utter hatred. No, it doesn't. This comes from a variety of areas. I think that Custodes and Knights have broken the game.
Ouch.
To be fair, I actually do think that the introduction of Knights was something that has very much shifted the meta, because of the fact that when you play Knights, you are basically playing a different game. Because you're not playing Warhammer at that stage. You are just basically saying,
we're playing Mini Armageddon.
Yeah, can I kill 5 models? Can I kill 5 models that are going to absolutely blitz through my army? Nope. And like Geraint pointed out the other day,
rapid-fire battle cannons.
Yeah, well, there is that. I mean, it's a ridiculous weapon in itself. But Geraint pointed something out the other day when he was playing Knights into Pantheon of Woe. Basically, he said that Knights have got a stratagem where they can sticky an objective at OC5, which meant that if he went around stickying the objectives, because the katana only OC4, they literally couldn't take the objective off him, which meant Jake scored 0 on primary for the entire game because he had no way of dealing with it.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, mental, isn't it?
For me, the issue that Knights bring is, as we say, it's like playing Apocalypse in miniature. It's like playing against Titans. I think as an add-on model to an army, I think they're quite cool because it gives you something. It gives you something big and scary. It gives you that kind of anti-monster, anti-vehicle target, and I think something similar that can be drafted in, I think, is quite good. As an entire army on its own, I think it's way too much. And this kind of then feeds into the Custodes side of things as well. Is you've got like the big knights on toughness 11, toughness 12, toughness 13, whatever it might be. You know, we're talking about tanks, but these guys are up and walking around. You've got the little guys on like toughness 9, which is some of the big monsters and variably kind of dreadnought level, but obviously many of them. And then you kind of, they're so far removed from what should be the pinnacle of kind of human technology, which then is the Space Marines. And then you've got to try and somehow squeeze in between all that Custodes, who aren't as strong and tough as a knight, because that would be silly, why would they? But they are stronger and tougher than a Space Marine. So you get this weird kind of thing where Custodes sit in a really weird place where thematically I don't think they're anywhere near as powerful as they should be. Game-wise, I don't think they sit in the right place. And then you've got knights, whether big or small, which again don't seem to sit in the right place. You know, I get that a little robot walker is going to move fast, but the speed of which some of these... I mean, they can move faster than jump marines. I can fly. What? You know, you have to worry about falling over rubble and breaking your leg. We've all seen Star Wars. We know what happens to the walkers there. Little robots that can then suddenly run really fast. I think the introduction of both of them has dynamically changed how the game works, and the introduction of so many rules to make it work and make it not and balance it off. And then as you said, that change of the meta, I think, is ridiculous. And the fact that, and I'm going to say it one more and then I'm going to stop ranting, the fact that someone has written down the words rapid fire battle cannon and hasn't been struck by lightning upsets me greatly.
It is baffling. The rapid fire battle cannon is a very strange weapon. It is, especially considering the range on it, because like pretty much everything is, it's in rapid fire range pretty much wherever it is, because the range on a battle cannon is massive as well. That's the other thing. So it's
72.
Yeah, 72.
Rapid
So
fire range is 36.
yeah, as long as you're like, you know, not firing from literally the other end of the board, if you're shooting lengthways, then you're definitely almost certainly going to be in a rapid fire range, which is a baffling concept, really, when you think about it.
And I'm pretty sure he's got a 10-inch move, and if you play an Infernal Lance, you add the extra couple of inches on. So
3 inches.
You asked that question at the start of the game, what's the range on this? Well, technically, at rapid fire range, it's 45 inches. I'm sorry, what? Yes, I can fire twice as fast, and I technically can do that 45 inches away from where I'm currently stood. Oh. Alright then. Oh, it's only AP1, don't care. Battle cannon, don't like it.
Yeah.
2d6 plus 6 plus blast.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of shots.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's 2d6, it's 1d6 plus 3 plus blast, isn't it? So it's 1d6 plus 3 plus blast plus rapid fire. Then you do that again, because the knight, I can't remember what it's called, the knight, the spoiler equivalent for the Imperial Knights, has 2 of them. So you can end up with 2d6 plus 6 with rapid fire d6 plus 3 and blast. So the amount of shots becomes preposterous. It becomes like an absolutely insane amount of shots at 3 damage.
It's just, it's insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. It is,
And yet I'm expected to believe in the lore that a taller than Space Marine dude in bright gold armour should in theory be able to full on lightsaber twirl with his spear and bounce all of that away and then put his middle finger up at the knight.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that in this situation, the army that I've struggled with in comparison is Custodes. Like, Knights, yeah, again, Knights have kind of changed things up a little bit, and I think it was when their codex came out, or was it just before their codex, where they had to change their toughness?
Yeah.
Like, they were completely, like, destroying the meta for a few months. But the other thing is that, like you said, with the way how points works in this game, is yeah, okay, I've got an army of, let's say, Space Wolves again, and I've got like 80 models on the board. They've only got 5.
Uh-huh.
If I lose a unit, I'm like, oh, that sucks. He loses a knight. That's a fifth of his army gone. That's like a quarter of the board he's not going to get to anymore. That's my objective now. Like if you know how to deal with knights, it's almost unfair facing them.
If you've got the
Because you just
scope
gotta
to
kill
deal
one.
with them, you've got anti-vehicle, quite a few anti-vehicle options. Again, we mentioned Ben and the Drakari, and Dan and the Drakari as well, and their anti-vehicle options. And I think that's the weird position where it sits. And then we get a meta, and we're pretty good at the club.
Yeah.
But we get a meta where it's anti-knight. Then all of a sudden, it's like, God, I won't want to gear my list to be anti-knights. I might not be playing knights. I want to be able to play other stuff, and the frustration is, and I'm picking on knights now, but the frustration is that knights are really, really cool, and it frustrates me. And I've been dabbling with the Chaos Knights on Tabletop Simulator. They are exceptionally cool.
Yeah.
Don't like them as an army. I think it's too much. And again, and the other kind of, I'm not going to finish. I'm never going to stop. This is going to be a 5-hour recording. But is take like I can't think what the little ones are called now, but like the war dogs and the
Armigers.
carnivores and all the rest of the armigers. Yeah, you take into account their kind of movement, their abilities, their weapons, and all this kind of stuff, and then put it against the Space Marine Dreadnought.
My Brutalis Dreadnought will rip one of my Warglaves to pieces.
If it gets in,
If
because the Warglaves
stat-wise,
are only a little bit not quite as strong, or not quite as tough. Sorry, they've got the movement, and if it's one of those Melter 4 ones,
well,
They're also preposterously cheap. These sort of armigers and the war dogs. I remember Josh once said to me when I was playing him with Knights, and he made a joke that it actually set me off on a rant, like Shane, where he said to me, he was like, "Oh well, I've only got this many because they're not cheap enough." So I was like, "How many points are they?" And he told me how many points they were, and I literally went off on an absolute rant about like how they are preposterously cheap for what they do. And then he was like, "I know, Simon, I was being sarcastic." And I was like, I was not aware of that, and I just literally berated him for like 10 minutes. But yeah, they're a weird one because, like Ross says, there are definite counters to them. The fact that they have so few models on the table is one of those things where if you're playing, as Ross says, Space Wolves with 80 odd models, that then sort of puts you in a position where you go, I have expendable stuff. He doesn't. I think.
So let's throw this one into it. So just quick, because I was having a look and you mentioned points, I thought I'd better bring it up. So War Dog Brigand, just looking at the Chaos side of things, 12-inch move, toughness 9, 3 up save, 14 wounds, OC 6. It's got an Avenger chain cannon, fine, shooty gun. It's got its Melter 4 18-inch range spear, and then it's got its heavy stubber. Hasn't really got an armored attack, fine. It has a built-in invuln, and it ignores cover.
only in ranged.
Yeah.
Only in ranged, yeah, because it hasn't really got a melee attack to worry about. And then you put on the bonuses that you get for being in the detachments as well. I mean, one of those shooting-wise kind of would kill a Brutalis, a Redemptor. Redemptor's 210 points. What Brutalis is now? 180? 185, something like that?
160.
160. So there's still a 20-point difference. But
Well,
the chances are that that's not running on its own.
On the Imperial side, the Warglave's only 140, so it's actually cheaper than Brutalis by 20 points.
The Brigand is the same, 140 points. So you've got these, which, again, to fit in with the Knights army, have to do that kind of stuff. But actually, much better than a superhuman who's hardwired into a robot.
Well, the other thing is if you look at detachments, I think you've got the same issue with your Chaos one, but like there's only one detachment where you can take more than 3 Warglaves.
Yeah.
And the entire detachment is about running as many little guys as you can. But then again, there are other detachments where the whole point is you just run big ones without any Warglaves, And if
Yep.
you remember from when we've played, because we've played Imperial Knights versus Chaos Knights, I think 2, maybe 3 times. You take the big 5, and I take a hybrid of 5
Mixy boys, yeah.
5 little guys, 3 big guys, where none of the detachments work for me. And yeah, I think you've pretty much steamrolled me every time. So it's like you have to actually play Knights, you have to either go one way or the other. You have to go
Yeah.
big or you have to go small. And again, it is a hard counter, but it's also too easy because you kind of know what their whole point's going to be when they reach the table.
And in terms of point scoring, it's quite minimal as well. And that's what I mean. Knights feels like a different game.
It does.
Yeah.
And again, I do extend that to Custodes as well. You know, I mean, there's a bit to pick on the Grey Knights and going back to the Ultramarines omnibus. I don't know why this thought pops into my head not too long ago, but it's like there was a question as to whether, oh God, the names have completely gone out of my head from the Ultramarines book. But anyway, the main characters are stripped of their armor,
You on
and
about
they have to fight the Grey Knight.
Are you on about Pausanias and Uriel Ventress?
Pausanias,
When they have
that's the one, yeah. Ventress,
Yeah.
the really famous guy, that's the one. But they essentially have a bout against a Grey Knight, and they're like, well, what would have happened if we would have won? It's like the Grey Knight's like, I would have killed you because you were super powered. That's a Grey Knight in armour taking on 2 veteran Ultramarines. So the Custodes are so far above that as for it to not be funny. Obviously, with the new, whatever it is, the new Titan protocol and all the rest of that business. But that's where the Custodes are supposed to be. And yet, yeah, one guardsman who fixes bayonets could, on a bad dice roll, kill one. What? They don't... Again, I love them. I love the army. I love the models. I love the rules. I love the lore. But they don't feel like they should be in 40k.
Not as their own thing, no.
Yeah, so it would you say it would make more sense if you ran an Imperium army and you could get your allied troops, you could have a squad of Death Watch, you could have a Terminator squad of Grey Knights, you could have probably just one Custodian or one Knight, and then just have it as that without their own armies.
I think that'd be really cool. I think that would be like how many a year ago Legion of the Damned used to work. They used to turn up on the battlefield, and I want to say they only lasted for so long. You didn't get them for the entire game. They would turn up for like a turn or two, cause absolute havoc. This is back in the days of deep strike mishaps, and they would turn up where they were supposed to be, ruin someone's day, but then go again. You had to place a portion of your army, your points aside, ready for that. But that threat was always there. So something similar, yeah, hands down. You know, this is calling in the reinforcements big time. This is, like I say, an Imperial Knight dropping from space. Okay, it's 500 points or it's 400 points, whatever it might be. And you get, you know, maybe it's turn 2 onwards. So you've got to manage your way through turn 1 and turn 2. And then, say, at the end of turn 2 or midpoint through turn 2, this massive monster just appears. Or, yeah, this squad of Grey Knight Terminators teleports exactly where you need them onto the board. You know, the enemy's making a break for the centre objective, and then all of a sudden, bam, this just wall of this, you know, ward-infused, blessed silver, true silver armour lands on the centre objective and just goes, no, you shall not pass. Something like that, you know, a couple of custodians just appearing to essentially try and take out the enemy high command. That's cool, man. An army of them? Nah.
Yeah, well, when was the last time in the lore you saw that many Custodians in one place you'd see on a battlefield? That was probably the War of the Webway.
Yeah.
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 Cool. We're in agreement. Custodians and Knights should be destroyed as armies. Excellent. Lovely.
Well, I agree with the Custodians.
I think they've done a pretty good job of balancing Custodes, which
Yeah.
bit of a controversial take, but I mean, I've always found that Custodes do feel like hard to actually push through, especially when you consider stuff like the Wardens, where they've got the, you know, once per game in one phase they can have 4 up, feel no pains, which helps them to feel more like, you know, the veritable super soldiers that they really are. But I don't know. Like Knights, I think it feels like you're playing a different game, and that's not to sort of detract from anyone who actually plays Knights, because I know a lot of people absolutely love them because they are, big stompy robots, and that is cool, like you say. But it's one of those things where I'm just like, it kind of makes you have to play a game that you're not normally playing. And I think, like you say, it's one of those things where if you are just playing a sort of all-rounder list, or you're playing something which is, not specifically designed to go into Knights, sometimes you do end up getting hit with that sort of stat check that if you're playing, for instance, as I say, like that competitive where, it's luck of the draw who you fight. Someone turns up with, 5 big Knights, and all of a sudden, some armies, you go, well, I've lost that game before I've even deployed because I have no way of dealing with any of these models. And like you say, they're so fast. The fact that they can just sort of bust through walls, the big Knights as well, just means that they can get where they want to go. Yeah, they can get where they want to go. They will shoot whatever they want to shoot. And once they've done that, if you haven't got anything to pick them up, you are basically playing a battle of attrition throughout the entire game then, where you're just going, I hope I have enough stuff alive by turn 5 that I can still continue to score points.
But I've got some points. And they can do actions. The character ones, the big ones, can do actions, and they can shoot, and they can fight, and they can take your misses out to a date, and they can drive a car. They can do what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for me. Right, we are getting close to the hour mark.
Who's Mark?
I don't know, but we're getting close to him.
Oh.
I played him on Thursday against his Custodes. That might be the reason why I'm feeling so much hate for them. So, I think this is a good point to hold the hot takes and to think on this next time. And as we said, we're kind of a member down from our merry troop. I'm open in terms of what you guys want to do next week. Does one of you want to do some lore, some painting? Should we kind of decide it and figure it out and make it a surprise for next week? How do you want to do?
I think we should have a think about it. We'll have a little conversation about that and work it out. But yes, just before we do finish up, I do have a very, very small hot take, and I don't even think it's that hot a take, to be honest. I think that GW need to get the Age of Sigmar model sculptors onto 40k, because they are significantly better.
Ooh. There is some really cool stuff in AOS.
Yeah, AOS. Like, I don't know. There's a level to like the sort of like the composition of models and stuff like that you don't really see in like the sort of basic troop. I mean, a good counter argument to that is the new Space Wolves models, because as Space Marines go, they are very dynamically posed and they do look awesome. But yeah,
they are gorgeous.
They are gorgeous. They're very, very good. But
well,
I do.
Can start on the holiday and just refresh next.
And I do. I just think that having a little bit of that Age of Sigmar flair added to some of the 40k models would do wonders to make the range a little bit more exciting. And I do like the 40k models, obviously. I've painted enough of them. I probably wouldn't paint as many of them as I do if I didn't think that. But I do think there is something to the Age of Sigmar model that has like a little bit of extra charm just on top of it, a little bit of spice, and I really like that.
So what you're saying is we need more dragons in 40k?
I
I don't
mean,
think that's a bad shout.
yeah, I mean, the dragon models are very cool. But I was more just thinking about, like, just applying some of that design rhetoric to some of the 40k models. I mean, some models, I think, they do a really good job on. They look very cool, but, like, I do think there's room for a little bit more zhuzh, And I think...
And there's more life. More life could be brought into 40k, and some of the big ones especially are... there's some absolutely stunning big models, big centerpiece models, which I do think, and again, you alluded to it earlier on in sort of this episode, is 40k is very competitive.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we haven't got those big centerpiece ones, but actually, maybe that would be like a really cool sort of stepping point. So yeah, and again, I think it's a really good idea. So thank you both very much. It's been very entertaining. The hot takes, knowing you guys as many years as I have, the hot takes were quite interesting, which was good. But yeah, that's episode 1 of this. Hopefully one of many, and we'll have a few more guys coming up. We're going to post this wherever we can get away with it, really. But yeah, I think that's it, and I think the point to take from that is that 40k needs more dragons. Thanks very much.